today's webinar is going to be about balancing act, caregiving, and arthritis. So in today's program, we're going to start with a few housekeeping. So all attendees have been muted. We do have a question and answer function down at the bottom of your screen. You're more than welcome to type any questions that you may have there. And then, of course, at the end of the presentation, we will be followed by more questions and answers. And also, we will also have a survey. And so you're more than welcome to take a look at these webinars and other webinars on our YouTube page, on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Arthritis Foundation. We'll have more webinars on there as well as this one. And so for tonight's moderator, I am your moderator. My name is Tiffany Daniels. I am a Arthritis Foundation volunteer. I am also a Rheumatoid Arthritis Connect Group facilitator. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis back in May of 2025, which is this year. Of course, I've had symptoms, I would say probably for the last 10 years, but I was recently diagnosed with RA this year. I've been in the airline industry for 20 years, and last year I became a stay-at-home mom. During that time, that's when I started noticing a lot of the symptoms. I am a wife and also an entrepreneur of a handmade jewelry business. I make jewelry, which is therapeutic for me, but I try to make jewelry that inspires women to feel the best that they can. A little bit about me, I love traveling, sightseeing, and experiencing things like out of the norm. So I'm kind of like that, jump in there and just do it type of person. So now with arthritis, it kind of limits me, but I still try to do it even though, I have been diagnosed. And so why does this matter to me? This matters to me because of my family. My family is my motivation to keep going. Even on days when I feel tired, I feel fatigued, the stress of having RA is different for everyone. But for me, my motivation is, of course, my family. I have a 2-year-old, and so some days she doesn't know, when mommy's tired, when mommy feels sick. So what motivates me every day is my family and especially her. So I try to use them as my motivation to find things to occupy my mind. My mental health is one thing that I found that has really, other than the symptoms, that has really hit home for me, that has really caused more damage than it should have. And so I found ways of coping with that by just, number one, my business. I make jewelry to kind of help take my mind off of the things that have affected me with RA. I read, I journal, I do puzzles, I do things that I love so that when it comes to my family, they don't have to see the RA in my face. Sometimes when you're going through stuff, it shows not only in your face and how you present yourself every day. So when I present myself to my family every day, I don't want them to see that I'm in pain, even though I may be in pain or I may be tired. I try to find ways that things that I enjoy to help keep my mind off of that. So my family is my biggest motivation. And so in tonight's webinar, a few things that we would like you guys to take away from this webinar is how to actually, manage the pain by finding things that help keep your mind off of, what you're going through, because it's a lot different when you're caring for someone. So making sure that you're taking care of yourself first and then trying to take care of your loved one. And so with that being said, I wanted to ask everyone, and you can actually answer these questions down in the chart. This is a caregiver poll. And so which area, is more challenging for you? Is it the pain and fatigue? Is it the stress? Is it the lack of time that you give to yourself, your self-care, the balancing roles, caring for yourself or your family, or working or whatever the case may be? Or is it just finding resources and support? So really, what is the biggest challenge for you? I know for me, the biggest challenge was self-care, because I wanted to make sure I took care of myself. Because in order to take care of my family, I have to make sure that I'm there. So that was the biggest challenge for me. So what is the big challenge for you? Okay, next slide. So some key takeaways that we would like you guys to have with this webinar is, of course, again, how to balance your personal health management and caregiving responsibilities, how to apply self-care tools and stress management techniques, and also how to identify resources to make caregiving more sustainable. Again, once again, for me, I had to find things that I enjoy, that I love to do in order to help with my mental state, because my mental state was the hardest thing for me because the stress it just caused a lot, along with the pain and fatigue. Stress for me was the biggest thing. So I had to find ways to cope in order to be able to take care of my family. So these are the key takeaways that we would like you guys to have for this webinar, and hopefully you are able to apply it in your own situations. Okay, next slide. Okay, and so tonight's expert, I would love to introduce Mrs. Joanna Doran. She is a cancer rights attorney and CEO of Triage Cancer. She has spent more than 30 years of working on behalf of patients, including an adjunct professor of law. She has presented more than 1,000 educational seminars for patient, caregivers, and healthcare teams. She's also the co-author she also co-authored a book on cancer rights for law for the American Bar Association. And one special thing about Miss Duran, she loves sitting by the ocean, reading a good book, and that's her happy place. And exactly, that's my thing as well. Next slide. And I also would like to introduce as well our next excerpt, Mrs. DaJavon Moore Adu. She's a licensed clinical social worker supporting caregivers managing chronic illness and stress. She's also the co-founder of the Holistic Coalition focus on culturally competent whole person care. She also specializes in practical tools for resilience, self-care, and navigating life transitions. And one thing about Mrs. Adu is that she loves turning everyday routines, breathing, cooking, rest into a wellness ritual. Next slide. Okay, and so from here, I would like to introduce Mrs. Lee. She would take it from here.
All righty. Hello, everybody. My name is Asia Lee. I'm the Director of Patient Education here at the Arthritis Foundation, and I have the pleasure of producing these wonderful events with you. This particular December, as we ended the year with a wonderful success of you guys participating, we wanted to thank you by also making sure you're taking care of yourself, especially during the holiday season where it's sometimes stressful. We have family coming around. We have to run here. We have to run there. But if you do have arthritis, it's kind of hard to keep yourself in check when you're making sure everyone else is. So that is what this presentation will be. We're going to start with me giving a little context. Next, we'll go into some resources. Then we're going to go into the mental health, holistic health side, and then a live Q&A. So let's have an open conversation about caregiving. So caregiving looks different for everyone, and many people are balancing a lot while supporting someone else. So this is a safe space here on this webinar to just listen and reflect. Our goal is to share different perspectives and also offer some support so that you don't have to feel alone in this journey, because you're not. If we look at that stat right there, 40% of caregivers have a lifetime diagnosis of arthritis. You are not by yourself, and the point of these is to make sure you know you have resources and you have community. But it's okay to be honest and say, hey, this is tough. So, what are a few caregiver challenges? So, we heard from our moderator, Tiffany, who has a form of inflammatory arthritis. So, with inflammatory arthritis, you have these unpredictable flares that can get worse. You just wake up one day and your body just feels like it's going to shut down. So, if you're taking care of children, or you are taking care of a spouse or a home overall, even if it's your now, a lot of people are in that sandwich generation where they're taking care of children as well as their parents. Sometimes you need to adjust if you're waking up to a flare. So those with IA manage their own pain and flares while supporting other people. But down here is a reminder that please take care of yourself first when you have, especially inflammatory arthritis. And then we think about the key challenges, right? So stress increases as you're juggling decisions and responsibilities. So we had Tiffany also say one of her biggest issues is stress. Sometimes she may not be feeling well, but she can't tell her daughter, oh no, I can't go to the birthday party. It's her anniversary. She wants to go have a night on the town with her partner, but she doesn't feel well. Oh man, what should I ask in my appointments? I just got diagnosed in this summer, actually. I don't know what I should ask. Man, what's in my insurance? What does this mean? How is there anything that can help lighten my load? And then the biggest thing is a lot of times people with arthritis that are caregivers also forget that they're a patient. They lose kind of sight of the fact that they matter too. And this webinar is to show you that you have to put your mask on first. So, if you want to better understand some pain, Pasira is here to give you a couple of more resources. If you scan that QR code right there, it'll go to a particular page that'll talk to you a little bit more about what you're feeling. We know pain means, ouch, this hurts, but what exactly is happening in your body? And chronic pain with arthritis can impact every part of your life. You may not have the energy to go do the race that you've been planning for all year. You can't show up at work the way that you want to. So scan that QR code to get a couple of more resources. Tonight is about giving you everything so that you can feel equipped to advocate for yourself and take care of yourself, especially during the holiday season. So some other daily difficulties. Making sense of medical information. I work here at the Arthritis Foundation, and sometimes if I get a bill or a report from the doctor, I'm having to look at it multiple times and do research about what does this actually mean? I know I'm not alone in that. So that's a difficulty when you're a caretaker and a patient. Tracking appointments and medications. You have a whole regimen that you have to follow as well, while also keeping up. If you have a 2-year-old, you're still going to the doctor quite a bit to get checkups and check on progress of your kiddo. You also have to track your appointments with that, so that can become difficult. Preparing for doctor visits. That's another big one. You have to fill out paperwork and you have to find somewhere to park, and then you get in there and you have to wait in the waiting room. It's a lot and it's frustrating and it's difficult, and we are aware of that. Finding trustworthy information. The internet has a little bit of everything on there, and if you don't know where to go, sometimes the information may not be as trustworthy as we believe. So, we want to also show you a little later through Triage Health how to kind of find some trustworthy information. Making confident health decisions, making sure that you know everything you can know when you go into making, okay, this is an insurance change, this is a provider change, knowing that you have all the information you can before you make that, because it's a big deal and sometimes it's difficult to undo some of our decisions. And most importantly, we see that one of the daily difficulties is balancing care and self-care. Care is making sure your body is functioning at its highest capacity, and self-care is making sure that your mind is. And sometimes we get lost in just trying to be the best that we can for our families, that we're not being the best for ourselves. And we recognize that. And you're not by yourself. And don't feel bad for being stressed or don't feel bad for being overwhelmed. It's a normal, natural emotion, and you're doing good. So now I want to bring on Joanna to talk a little bit more about those resources I mentioned. Triage Health is a wonderful organization that is here to really just make sure your life is easier. So I'm going to pass it along now to Joanna.
Thanks so much. So I was asked to talk about some of the rights and resources available to caregivers. And I know this slide and the logos on the slide are a little bit confusing. So I'm actually the CEO of Triage Cancer, which is a national nonprofit organization that provides free education on all of the legal and practical things that come up as a result of a cancer diagnosis, both for individuals who are diagnosed and their caregivers. But in 2023, after decades of doing this work in the cancer community, we knew that the information that we spend so much time teaching people about is actually not specific to cancer. It's actually relevant to everybody, especially if you're dealing with another type of chronic or serious medical condition. And so we wanted to make that information more widely available to everybody. It's actually a lot of topics that we think we should have been taught in high school that no one ever bothered to teach us. And so we kind of learn these things through adulting, but we wanted to make it a little bit easier for people. And so we founded a program called Triage Health to make those resources available. So Triage Health provides free education on the legal and practical issues around navigating healthcare, generally speaking. Next slide. When I tell people that I'm a cancer rights attorney or a healthcare attorney, I always get asked what's legal about health. People don't think I need a lawyer when they are diagnosed with a chronic or serious medical condition. They think I need a doctor. But the answer to that question, what's legal about health, is actually almost everything. Whether or not there's research funding is a legal issue. Whether or not the Food and Drug Administration actually approves a particular treatment is a legal issue. Whether or not your insurance is going to cover that treatment is actually a legal issue. Whether or not you can take time off work as a patient and not lose your job, or as a caregiver and not lose your job, are also legal issues. It's just that we often don't really think of those things as legal issues. We just think of those as the practical things we have to deal with when navigating healthcare. And, we really think it's important that people have information about the laws and programs that exist so that they can better navigate systems. But I often say, if all you needed was a law to solve a problem by itself, you wouldn't need lawyers and you wouldn't need law enforcement. Just having the law by itself doesn't actually solve problems. So we really need the education that the law exists and how they can actually protect you. And then we need help with the navigation piece as well, because just knowing that the protections exist doesn't mean that you can always tap into them or know what to do next. And so that's really where Triage Cancer and Triage Health sit. We try to help people understand their rights and benefits and protections that they can tap into, and then understand how to actually take next steps related to those protections. So I'd like to give you some examples of the types of information that we talk to caregivers about all the time. Next slide, please. And those are things like helping people understand how to manage their finances and their medical bills. It's things like understanding health insurance options, both for themselves and members of their family. We also help people better understand how to actually use their health insurance effectively, both to get the care that they need, but also to minimize those out-of-pocket costs. We also help people know what to do when insurance says, no, we're not going to cover your care. But for caregivers, we also talk about their employment rights, both for themselves as caregivers, but maybe also for the individuals who they're caring for. And so to give you an example, when we're talking about employment rights, there's actually lots of places to go for that information. There are laws that we call fair employment laws that protect people against discrimination in the workplace, both based on their own medical condition, but also based on their status as a caregiver, and they are protected against discrimination at work. There are also leave laws. So leave laws are laws that allow you to take time off work, and then they provide some job protection and maybe even health insurance protection. And the Family and Medical Leave Act, or the FMLA, is an example of a leave law at the federal level. But leave laws also exist at the state level and even county or city level. So there's actually lots of places to go to see if there are protections or benefits available to you in being able to take time off work. You might also be in a situation where you actually work under an employment contract, and that contract is going to provide additional information about what rights and benefits you have access to at work. Or if you're a member of a union, that union bargaining agreement is also going to provide information about benefits and protections. But we often forget that the law just provides the bare minimum of what employers have to do. There are lots of employers that go way above and beyond what the law requires them to do. And so you have to look specifically at your employees or your employer's policies to see what types of employee benefits you have access to. And that might be things like insurance, whether it's health insurance or disability insurance or even life insurance, but it's also typically things around taking time off work. In most cities and states across the country, if you have access to a sick day or a vacation day, it's not because a law requires those things. It's because employers are choosing to offer those things as benefits. And so you always have to look specifically at what your employer's policies are to find out how you can tap into those benefits and protections. If you want more information about employment rights, we have a resource hub on employment at triagehealth.org/employment. And we have lots of information about the benefits that you potentially could have access to at work. But I do want to mention that caregivers need support too. And I think Asia talked a lot about some of the practical daily challenges that can pose problems and sort of conflict with all the other things that are going on in your life. And there are a lot of organizations that can provide support, whether that's mentorship or emotional support, but there's lots of resources available to help with some of the practical things, like help with meals or household chores or being able to get rides places. So we have a lot of those resources on our caregiving hub at triagehealth.org/caregiving. Next slide, please. Speaking of our website, I want to share with you some of the other things that you can find on our site that might be useful to you or people who you know. First, we host educational events that are all free. And those events include our one-day conferences. We also have a webinar series, excuse me. And we have a Triage Health podcast. So if listening to an hour-long webinar isn't really what you want to be spending your time doing, or maybe you don't actually have that amount of time to learn more about these topics, our Triage Health podcast is actually a great way to learn more about key things in a shorter period of time in definitely a more conversational format. So that's one of the things we have available. And on our website, we sort information in two ways. We sort information by topic. So if you go to the resource topics page for caregiving, for example, you'll find all of the resources and materials we have available on caregiving. If you're looking for employment information, you can find all of our employment resources in one place. But we also sort information by location. And so we have state-specific resources that, we have done some of that Googling for you. We have taken the internet and made it a little bit easier to navigate by pulling some of the key resources for you to be able to tap into some of the benefits and protections in your state specifically. In addition to our state resources, we also have charts of state laws, and where you live really matters in terms of what types of laws apply to you and what protections and benefits you have access to. And so those charts of state laws can be a helpful resource for you when you're trying to figure out what you have access to. Or if you're caring for someone who happens to be in another state, it's also helpful to know how things might be different in that particular state. We know that you might not find everything that you're looking for on our website. So if you still have questions and you didn't get answers by attending an educational event, you can contact our legal and financial navigation program. This program is where people can come to us with their individual questions, and we will explain how laws apply to their situation, what they may or may not qualify for, and how to actually make decisions about some of the choices that are available so that people can make educated next steps and find their best path forward. I will also say through the navigation program, we can also connect people to a panel of certified financial planners. So if you need help with financial planning, we can also help connect you with those free services as well. And finally, we have an educational blog where we are sharing information that is practical and useful for people to navigate healthcare, but we're also sharing information from our partners like the Arthritis Foundation. And you can sign up to get that blog actually delivered to your email. So you don't actually have to remember to go and check the website to see when a new blog is posted. And then we have a monthly newsletter where we are sharing late breaking news. We're sharing new resources that we have available for the community, as well as upcoming events that are happening. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can do that as well. So I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the topics that we can provide education about and where to find some of the resources that can be useful to you. But we cover a whole range of other things that you might find you would like more information about. So we welcome you to reach out or to visit our website. And so now I'm going to turn it over to DJ.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. In my experience working in the mental health industry and supporting my clients who not all not only are supporting themselves but tend to take on caregiver roles, they find it hard to recognize healthy ways of taking care of themselves. And so my mission has really been to support a lot of my clients in learning how to take care of themselves in healthier ways by not just focusing on the big self-care needs, but also the small things that they can do within their day-to-day needs. And so I'm so glad to be here to support this community and learning, small ways to implement self-care in their day-to-day. And so as we move forward, we can start by talking about how holistic wellness can be a part of your day-to-day living. And so the next slide, what we can talk about is why holistic care matters. A lot of times when we are in the caregiving role, we tend to forget that, hey, we have to take care of ourselves first. My biggest thing is reminding my clients that when you're on the airplane, the first thing that they tell you to do is put the mask on yourself before putting the mask on someone else. And so the hope is that through this journey, you are able to learn ways of making sure that you're able to put that mask on yourself so that you can support the people in your life in the best way that you can. When you come into a holistic approach to care, what happens is sometimes we tend to forget that our body takes on the strain that our experience is feeling. And so we can maybe forget to ignore some things about ourselves, maybe our symptoms, or, forgetting to eat or forgetting to drink water. Sometimes we are so focused on taking care of the people that we care about, we tend to forget to take care of ourselves. And so the reason why holistic care matters is because it helps us to be mindful that we also matter. And if we are taking care of ourselves, we can support the people in our lives in healthier ways. And so the better we take care of ourselves, the more sustainable we can be, and the more that we can show up for the people in our life and the people that we care about. And so, the hope is that we are mindful that with wellness, it's an intentional act at checking and making an effort to find balance in our day to day. And our day to day may look different. And so learning what is important to us and what is helpful in our day to day experience can help us to learn, what we need and how we can educate our community so that they can step up and support us as well. So next slide. And so something that's important is also knowing what your own needs are. When it comes to your own emotional regulation, like I heard from Tiffany, knowing what your body needs and what your body is going through is important for you to be able to set the tone for your day and what you need in order to show up in the most healthy way as possible. Sometimes you may need a little bit more rest, and that may require you to give yourself a little bit more grace and practice what I love to call self-compassion. If you're feeling your body is a little stiff or you're needing a little bit more stretch or a little bit more pull, letting yourself do that rather than allowing those thoughts and those feelings of guilt to stop you from giving yourself what you fully need. What happens is, we tend to get in these roles and we go and we go and we go, and we forget to check in with ourselves. Something that I tend to start first in my journey with a lot of my clients is educating them about self check-ins. Self check-ins can seem very small and very, minute, but if you incorporate them into your daily practice, it helps you to regulate yourself and stay ahead of, things that may cause you to feel overwhelmed or stressed. And a self check-in can be very simple. A self check-in looks like asking yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling that way? And then what do I need to feel just a little bit better? It may not help you feel, the best in the moment, but it may help you feel just a little bit better in that experience. And then giving yourself that permission to actually act on what you need in that moment. So if your body is telling you, look, you're anxious, you're feeling overwhelmed, and you need to take a second to breathe. Actually taking that second to breathe is the best thing that you can do for yourself in that moment. What happens is you allow yourself the ability to know what you need and why you need it, or what you feel and why you feel that way, so that you can not only do what you need for yourself, but communicate with the people around you how they can show up for you. And that's why it's so important for you to feel comfortable with letting people know, hey, I need help, I need support, because you're definitely deserving of it. And a lot of times, because we are caretakers, we tend to forget we also need help too. And as a mother of three and a wife, I know it is hard to just be like, look, I need help. But I firmly believe building a safe community and a strong community can help you feel a little less alone in their struggles and a little less unseen. And it's important for you to know that you matter, and showing up means that you are giving yourself permission to take care of yourself in healthy ways. Coming to this session, showing up in this moment, you're already taking one small step into giving yourself that permission to take care of yourself in healthier ways. So if nothing else, today, in this moment, please allow yourself a little moment of celebration to know that you're doing what you need to take care of yourself in healthy ways. And that's the best thing you can do for yourself. Okay? Something else that's really important: rest. Rest is the best thing that you can do for your body and for yourself. A lot of times we are so much in survival mode that we are on go. And we tend to forget to even take a breath or find our breath, so that we can gather ourselves into the moment and ground ourselves, so that we can make healthy and intentional choices. A lot of times I like to tell my clients to make sure throughout the day that they're giving themselves a little moment to take a breath and recenter themselves, because they're deserving of taking a second to breathe. A lot of times we're so on go and we're so focused on caring for other people, we forget that we need to just take a second to breathe. A breathing exercise that can be helpful for you, and one that is easy to try and remember, is what I like to call a box breath, which is taking a second to relax yourself in the moment. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold that breath for 4, and then release for 4. And you repeat that cycle for 3 to 4 times, or until you feel yourself calm and in the moment and ready to move forward. You know, being intentional to find your breath and ground yourself is the simplest and easiest thing that you can do to give yourself a break, give your mind a break, and give your body a break just for a moment. And sometimes we forget that taking that breath, even though it seems small, can bring our bodies and our minds so much energy and joy that we can make an intentional step to move forward. And so I hope that you guys can take a second each day to find a moment to just breathe and find your breath, because you're deserving of it, so that you can show up fully and be representing what you need for the people in your life. And so if nothing else, I hope that you guys can take away from this experience knowing that it's important for you to not only take care of your body, but your mind as well as your emotions. Because the more that you are ahead of what your body is feeling and what your mind is thinking, the more that you can feel empowered to make choices that feel aligned with what you value, and so that you can show up for the people in your life in the way that you want. If you're able to, stay connected with the ones that you loved and build a healthy community and allow them to, help you in ways that you may not always be willing or wanting to ask for help with, it can allow you space to not only feel confident in yourself and knowing that you can take care of yourself in healthy ways, but it can also help you feel more empowered to show up for the people in your life. And also knowing that taking care of what you put into your body, not just food, but the thoughts that you feed yourself, as well as making sure you're moving your body. Those basic needs help to fuel your ability to show up for not only yourself, but the people you love and care about. And so just allowing yourself that space and that grace to show up in healthy ways is a way for you to show up for everyone in your life, not just yourself, but the ones you love. And so if nothing else, I hope that these takeaways you can take away with you and know that self-care isn't just you taking care of yourself. It's also self-preservation. It's a way for you to be able to not only show up, but show out. And so I hope that you can at least learn how to be gentle and kind with yourself so that you can give yourself grace and also allow other people to show up for you, because strength is knowing that people in your life are able to show up for you and help you as much as you are showing up for them. And also, lastly, making sure that you are intentional about giving yourself rest so that you can give your body and your mind a break and give yourself permission to ease yourself through the transitions of your day-to-day living. Because life is hard, and sometimes surviving means giving yourself permission to take each one step at a time and keep small promises to yourself each day. Lastly, I am a clinical therapist who has also arranged, who created not only a guided journal, but a whole alignment season coaching package. My coaching package is a one-on-one coaching experience that not only has a guided journal, but a 30-day wellness experience that I incorporate with not only therapeutic interventions, but coaching incentives as well. I also have a guided journal that me and my business partner created to not only support clients in learning how to give themselves a day-to-day space of, gratitude and focus, but also provide them with resources so that they can cultivate wellness into their daily experience. And that is also available on Amazon and accessible to anyone.
There we go. I want to say, DJ, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to ask that she put the links to these resources in the chat to you guys so you can easily access that. I also would love that the rest of my panelists come on to the stage. We're going to do some question and answer. I'm going to take down the presentation for a second so that you can see everyone's faces. Alrighty, and so we're going to go into Q&A. One really cool thing that we do here at the Arthritis Foundation, when you're registering for these events, we have a button that says, hey, what are some things you'd like to know more about? And we actually read them. Not only do we read them, we give them to our subject matter experts and they are able to answer it. So sometimes you may not get your questions answered in the chat, or it may be a topic where it's kind of, and that's a little personal. I don't want to be called out. We want to make sure everyone feels comfortable. So let's first go to Tiffany. This presentation has been about making sure you're making the best experience of being yourself while also being a caregiver. What does the perfect Saturday of self-care look like for you? You're on mute, my friend.
Sorry. The perfect Saturday for me is being able to just wake up and get up actually before my baby gets up, and just taking that moment to just be thankful that, you know, I'm here. Even if I have a little pain, a little fatigue, I'm here. I can wake up. I may have just a little bit of coffee, not too much because I don't want to cause a flare, but just a little bit of coffee, and just sit to myself and think and just kind of understand and plan out my day of what I can and I can't do. So that's the perfect Saturday for me, when I'm able to get up and I'm not in pain, or I'm not having any symptoms, or even if I do have the symptoms, I'm still able to get up and be a part of my family's life. So that's a perfect Saturday for me.
Absolutely. There's few things better than a slow Saturday morning. You don't have anywhere to be. You said you're a big reader. You just caught some good books at Barnes and Noble on that Thursday. I hope you have one of those new books soon. Well, I'm going to now go over to Joanna. So, how can caregivers use care coordination tools or advocates to reduce stress and avoid burnout?
That is a good question. So I think that we talk a lot about using your resources. And I think we've all sort of talked about the benefit of asking for help, even though I know that that is totally easier said than done for some of us. And the last thing that we like to do is to ask for help. But using those resources can really make life a lot easier in lots of different ways, in really practical ways, and also in lots of ways that can create or can help you avoid stress and anxiety. I think that that includes things like talking to your healthcare team about managing symptoms, but it also includes knowing what resources are out there to be able to help you with some of the practical things too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. When I was creating this presentation, I went to the Triage Health website and I saw that there's so much there that was helpful. I'm not necessarily a caretaker, but I found things for me. So, guys, please, please, please go check out those links that she put in there. I'm now going to go over to DJ. So, we have caregivers that are making all of these decisions. It's weighing heavy. How can caregivers recognize the difference between normal stress and burnout?
So with normal stress, it's like it comes and goes. And so when you start to alleviate the pressures that are surrounding those stressors, you start to feel a little bit better. Now, when it comes to burnout, burnout is definitely heavier. It's more persistent. It's going to give you that agitation, that exhaustion, that numbness, that irritability, that resentment. You're starting to act out. You're starting to react rather than respond. And when you're caregiving, when you start to feel yourself, lingering in that sense of chronic exhaustion, that sense of hopelessness, that sense of helplessness, that's your sign that, I need some help. That's your sign to let your community know, like, I need more support, or I need to delegate some of these things to take care of myself and give myself what I need in order to move forward. And so, being mindful that it's a slippery slope between stress and burnout, but when that burnout it hits. And so, giving yourself a little bit of permission to recognize it within your body and letting yourself know, like, look, I need to take a step back and figure out, what do I need for me? Because I can't support anyone or show up for anyone in my life if I am not taking care of myself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Those two things look different and they require two different treatments. So, thank you so much. I am going to go to one for Joanna really quickly because I got it in my email. What made you go into cancer law? That's a very specific kind of field. Tell us a little bit more of that.
It is actually. So it's sort of a long story, but the short version is I had been exposed to the challenges that individuals diagnosed with cancer often have to navigate. Both my parents had worked in oncology, and when I was in high school, I started working at a cancer center. doing admin work for a psychosocial care program. And I ended up staying there 8 years, supporting patients and working in the resource library and connecting patients who are participating in clinical trials. And so one of the things that I was responsible for was working in the Positive Appearance Center, which was an in-clinic store for the comfort and cosmetic side effects of a cancer diagnosis. So I would fit patients for mastectomy bras and prostheses after a breast cancer diagnosis. And then I'd have to bill insurance. And insurance companies would deny coverage. And they would say, that's cosmetic. And I happened to also be in law school at that point and had taken a class and learned about the Women's Health and Cancer Rights Act, which requires insurance companies to cover those products, or at least private insurance companies. And so I would then say to the person on the phone, well, what about WICRA? And they would say approved. And so just demonstrating that I knew the acronym of the law that applied to the situation, that was enough to change the outcome, as opposed to a patient having that denial and having to pay thousands of dollars, frankly, outside or out of pocket for that care. And so it really showed me that if you don't know what your rights are, the system walks all over you. And so it really showed that I could use my legal information and knowledge to be able to help people better navigate those systems. And so that was my kind of first example of that in the cancer community. And I've certainly been presented with lots of other ways that that's the case. But that's how I still do that work, because there's so much need.
It is such an honor to fight the good fight with you. It truly is to have you here. I hope that you guys that are here listening, and do know this is recorded, that you guys are knowing people care and people are dedicating their lives to making sure that your life is better too. So I'm going to go over to Tiffany. How do you ask for help when you're used to being the one others rely on?
Well, I have to remember that everyone needs help. The old saying when it comes to children, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes a village to care for someone that you love that's dealing with a chronic illness or any type of illness. And the reason why I say that, and I talk to my husband about this all the time, when it comes to me, I go to my husband when I'm looking for advice about something, but I may go to my mom when I need a shoulder to cry on. So it takes a village. And so I remember that whenever, those times come.
I'm so, so happy to hear that you don't take it all on yourself. You get tired too. You deserve
Yeah.
to have some softness too. So I'm happy that you have those outlets. So, guys, we
Yeah.
are getting close to the 8 o'clock hour. So, we're going to do one more round of questions with our panelists, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about some next programming. So, DJ, I would like to ask, what are some alternatives that caregivers who may not have access to traditional therapy could use? What would be your advice there?
So when it comes to therapy, it's not one, space that therapy lives in. I believe that therapy can come in different ways, and that could look like a small support group. That could look like a community-based program. That could also look like any kind of faith-based support initiative. Traditional therapy can be very expensive, and it can be, a little off-putting for some people. And so finding safe places to build support with friends and build support with others that are in a similar community or in a similar experience can help you have a safe base to just have someone to talk to about what you're going through and what you're experiencing. A lot of times I have clients that can't come see me every week or every month. And so I always encourage them to find small spaces where they can journal, video blog, or, just get their thoughts out in a safe place to where it doesn't have to always be in their mind. You want to give yourself small moments in your experience to where you can just check out and just relax and just do things that don't have to be about your pain or someone else. And that may look like crocheting or watching a good drama or reality TV show for a little while. Whatever your heart's desires. Or my favorite is getting me a nice little Three Musketeer and sitting on my couch with my 7-year-old, snuggling and watching whatever she wants to watch. Whatever helps you to feel comfortable and safe, that can be therapeutic in itself. And so just giving yourself little moments of that can be helpful in itself.
That is wonderful. I like to make these presentations personal. So, a little about myself. I also have an autoimmune disease myself, a chronic illness. So, this topic is very close to me. And the cool thing is when DJ talks about community and making sure that you're reaching out and you're not handling everything on your own. DJ is actually a college friend of mine. We went to undergrad together, and it is such a pleasure to be able to reach out to her in our adult years when I'm not feeling great. I can say, hey, DJ, my joints aren't feeling well and my appetite is down. And she has stopped what she was doing as a parent and a wife and made me little elixirs just so I have a tea so I can push forward. So when we say the importance of community, that is exactly what we mean. Everyone's busy, everybody has something on their plate, but it takes being community to also get it back. So I just wanted to kind of make that there to know that even the people at the Arthritis Foundation, we need help and support too, and we have to practice asking for it. So from there, I'm going to go to Joanna, and then we're going to close it out with Tiffany. What advice would you give someone newly navigating both arthritis and caregiving?
Well, maybe I would say starting with understanding what your rights are. And that's sort of beyond understanding your medical condition and the healthcare that you need and the support that you need, but then understanding kind of what does that community look like within your healthcare space, and then looking at those in your community who can also be resources to you. Because once you kind of figure out those first steps, then as things move forward, you know who you can tap into based on what you're dealing with. Asia, I think you're on mute.
I am. So essentially, guys, drilling home, the more you know, the more that you can help yourself. On the airplane, they tell you to put your mask on first, learn and apply. And so let's then bring it over to Tiffany. As she said a little bit earlier, she leads one of our Connect groups. So I'll talk a little bit about those later. But again, community and using what's around you. I'd like to end the Q&A with, how do you set boundaries without feeling guilty, especially when pain or fatigue limits what you can do?
Well, I have to understand, and this is what I tell my family and my friends, that I no longer set my limits. My body sets it for me. So when I'm not at my best, I can't be at my best for you. So when I say I can't do something or I need my rest, I need it so that I can be the best that I can be for my family. So in the beginning, I did feel guilty, but as time go on and I started to understand what my body could and could not do, I started communicating with your loved ones and really letting them know how you feel, even if they may not listen. Over time, they'll start to see, like, hey, she's had a little rest today, so she's feeling a little bit better. So communicating with them and actually showing them, like, hey, I didn't had, a few hours of sleep. So, hey, we can do this, so we can do that. So understanding that if I don't get my rest, really communicating with your loved ones and letting them know that I'm doing this to be better for you. So that's how I set my boundaries.
That is a wonderful way to close us out. Guys, before you were a caretaker, before you had an ailment, you were yourself. And so make sure that you are focusing on you, making sure that you are giving yourself every single thing you need. You are the most important person to you, and you're important to us too. So I'm going to go back to the presentation just for a second so that you can see some resources that we have. Thank you so very much for joining us on this webinar. This was an expert panel to end the year with. I hope that you learned so much. I hope that you are able to go in and get some of those links. We'll also kind of send those on the back end as well as this presentation. So in case you weren't able to copy and paste them really quick, we'll make sure that we get those to you as well. Do know that there's a survey that's going to be mailed over to you, emailed rather. Let us know what you think. How did you feel about the content? What's some more things that you'd like us to talk about? We listen, as you may see, and we apply. So I talked a little about Connect Groups. Connect Groups is our version of allowing people to come together and have more of these conversations. Sometimes you just need a place to get it out. You need somewhere where there's a subject matter expert that may talk about diet. They may talk about, oh goodness, I don't have a gym near my home. I can't afford to go to the gym. What are some exercises that I can do at home? Oh man, it's open enrollment. I have no clue what this means. Let's get together in our Connect group. So they are led by patients and people that just really care about the message. So like Tiffany, thank you so much. You're newly diagnosed and you're already getting involved. So kudos to you. Upcoming Connect groups right here. January 2026, we're starting off great with the Connect group, but in a couple of days, we're going to have a kickboxing kind of training at our Movement Matters session. So you can always register right there at connectgroups.arthritis.org. We do these webinars every single month. For January, we didn't want to come in and say the typical, let's worry about what we're eating, let's drop some pounds. I want you to know that you are perfect how you are and that we just want to make you feel the best that you can. February, we're going to talk about getting some movement going, and you can register at arthritis.org/webinars. Here are some resources for JA caregivers. Kids get arthritis too. So we want to make sure that you know we are supporting them as well. We have camps that are coming back next year. During the summer, here's the locations that they are. JA Family Summit will be in July in Indianapolis. I hope to see you guys there. We also have a Connect group for that. With that said, I'm so appreciative. Thank you for all of your support of the Arthritis Foundation in 2025. It's our pleasure to serve you. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your year. Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.